RX Television on RxMuscle.com. This is Ask Dave, better known as hashtag Ask Dave, brought to you by Species Nutrition. Visit speciesnutrition.com. I'm your host, Sadiq Faruqi. It's your weekly 30-minute question and answer show with Dave Palumbo. Obviously, we are coming with a little bit more of a somber mood as yesterday the bodybuilding world was completely rocked by the sudden passing of Dallas McCarver. We started to get word of it early in the morning, and we worked very hard to confirm the news. Obviously, there were a lot of reports out there, but Dave, we're going to start on that note. Obviously, a very somber tone right now in the entire bodybuilding world with yesterday's tragic developments with Dallas McCarver.
Yeah, sometimes it's hard to process when you see a 26-year-old kid in the prime of his life, someone who's a very liked individual in our industry, and something happens to him, whether he gets into a car crash. We don't even know why he died, but he's no longer with us. I mean, the person who's probably the most traumatized, I'd have to believe, would be Josh Lenardowitz, who was staying with Dallas. He comes home from the gym, and he finds him, laying on the floor, unresponsive. That's got to traumatize anyone. Anyone who's got a heart, that would traumatize. And imagine the way Josh is feeling, and now, or I should say, imagine how we're feeling, and multiply that times 100 because Josh found him. So it's a terrible thing, and I know there's a lot of speculation, and every guy who thinks he's got a YouTube channel that's relevant is going to give an opinion on what happened. Obviously, TMZ released the tape of the 911 call that Josh made to the police, where he mentions that Dallas had been using insulin. I think he said that more so to let them know that if there's any relevancy to him being unconscious. I think at the time that Josh probably found Dallas, he was probably dead already. I don't think Josh could have done anything about it. It's a terrible position to be in when you find someone and you feel helpless like that. I don't believe insulin is what killed Dallas McCarver. I don't think hopefully we'll find out when the autopsy is performed, but I certainly don't think he choked either. I think the choking might have been secondary to something that might have happened, whether it had been a heart attack or who knows what. People die of aneurysms all the time, and we don't know what causes these things. They're just genetically there in the people. So before we start speculating and saying, pointing fingers at people and saying this one killed that one, or this one killed him, or he killed himself, don't say anything. Let's see what the autopsy shows, and then we can do our analysis and we can decide, how to go about, correcting maybe something that might have happened. But Rich Piana, we don't know what happened to him either. He fell and hit his head and he's in a coma. So I mean, fluke accidents happen all the time. Sean Harris was driving a car and got into a car wreck, 5 days before the Tampa Pro and died. So accidents happen all the time in every aspect of life, not just in the bodybuilding world. So is it a terrible thing? Absolutely. I can't even imagine what his family is thinking right now. I mean, this is not a guy who is 60 years old. This is a 26-year-old kid. So my prayers, my love, everything that that makes bodybuilding special goes out to his family and all the people who care about him. And I know a lot of people out there really like Dallas and considered him a friend. I see a lot of people posting pictures of them with Dallas, whether it be at a show or at a gym. And that just goes to show you the guy was well liked, because if he wasn't well liked, you wouldn't see that outpouring of people, talking about him. So, let's remember him for the great things he did in his life rather than trying to point fingers at why he's dead now.
So again, our thoughts and prayers with Dallas McCarver's family and loved ones and the entire bodybuilding world. Let's get to the questions. If you want to join us, you can join us on the Muscle Central Forum on RxMuscle.com, on our Instagram page, Facebook page, or tweet at us using hashtag AskDave. Let's go to Luis La Martins. He wants to know, Dave, when you're going to get Neil Hill on Live With.
That's ironic, because you were just asking me that earlier. You said, hey, we should get Neil Hill on the show. So I would love to have Neil on. Neil's a good interview. He's a smart guy. He obviously works with Flex Lewis and William Bonac. I don't know if last year he was on the contract with AMI. I don't know if he still is. We'll have to ask him. If not, would love to get him on, especially now that he's a Boca Raton, Florida resident. And I didn't know that until Aaron Singerman told me that on Monday.
Let's go to the 1_100. Dave, when I train back, my forearm starts giving up way too soon. My biceps are not behind, and I've tried a bunch of techniques. Your thoughts?
When you train back, you use straps. That's what we all do. Ronnie Coleman used straps, and he had the biggest back in bodybuilding. The forearms and biceps and all those will always give out first. Your hands can't hold the kind of weight that your back can pull. So back in the day, we used those straps that would last like for maybe anywhere from 2 to 3 months, and then they would rip in the middle of a set, usually a heavy deadlift set. Nowadays, you know, when I was competing at the end of my career, I was using the Versa grippers. I love those things. They Velcro around your wrist, and they have a little thing, and it goes over the bar, and it takes 2 seconds to lock on. You don't have to strap and wrap on the bar like in the old days. And the reason we use those is because they take the forearms out of the movement. They take your hands out of the movement. And people would say, well, you're going to weaken your forearms. And I've said this before. Train forearms on arm day. Don't train them on back day. Okay, back day, you're training your back, so you're not weakening anything. That's the best way to a huge back. A good pair of straps or Versa grippers or something comparable to that it can go a long way in some great back development, trust me.
Richard 2.0, for optimal fat loss, would you only do carb meals around workouts, then go the rest of the day high protein, no carbs, from starches, just veggies?
You know, I got to tell you, Sid, I've heard this question 6 million times already. If I hear one more person ask me about eating carbs only pre-workout and post-workout, or taking insulin pre-workout, I'm going to shoot myself in the head. Why would you only take carbs in pre and post-workout? The carbs that you're using during your training session are the carbs that are stored as glycogen inside your muscles. How did they get there? From the meal you ate earlier in the day or the night before, not from the meal you ate right before you went to the gym. Okay? Likewise, you know, how much carbs do you possibly need to recover from a workout that might have burnt up 50 grams of carbs? Not that much. So if you could, let's say you're eating 150 grams of carbs a day, which is still pretty low. Why not just spread them out throughout the day so your blood sugar levels are stable, rather than spiking insulin pre-workout and spiking it post-workout and then being low early in the day and later in the day? It's ridiculous. I don't know why people make this so complicated. If you're eating 6 meals a day, spread your carbs out over the 6 meals a day. I don't know why you have to eat 100 grams of carbs in 2 meals, for 2 meals. It doesn't make sense. You're not going to process that much. You're going to over-secrete insulin, and you're probably going to store some of that as fat. It's not smart. It's not smart, and I don't know why people keep pushing this and pushing this and pushing this. I have people 100 times a day asking me, how much insulin should I take before I go to the gym? I'm like, why would you take insulin, that hormone that lowers your blood sugar, before you go into the gym? I don't get it. I don't understand the logic behind it.
Let's go to Bass here. See, Dave, what rep tempo do you suggest your clients? I've had good success with 2 second and 4 seconds concentric, 2 seconds concentric, and 4 seconds eccentric. Your opinion?
If you're counting how many seconds it takes to move the weight up and down, you're probably not focusing on the muscle very much because you're too worried about time. How about you just focus on how it feels? The way, let's take the bench press, for instance. On the way up, which is the positive or, you know, concentric movement, okay? You want to explode. You want to move that weight up. You want to have an explosive type movement. You can't, you know, move it very slowly because that's going to make it harder. Okay, and you're not going to be able to lift as heavy. So you need an explosive concentric. On the eccentric movement on the way down, you want to control the weight. That means you don't want to let gravity let it drop because now the muscle's not working. But at the same time, you don't want to do a super slow rep because it's going to take so much energy out of you. It's going to limit the amount of reps you can do. But you want to control the weight on the way down. You know, I never timed how long it took me to get down, but people would sometimes come into the gym and run over to the bar and try to help me because they would think that I was stuck because I would lower the weight so slowly. You have to control that weight on the way down. How long it takes you to get that weight down is different for every person. Also, the heavier the weight, the longer it's going to take to get that weight down if you're going to do it under control. With lighter weight, it's so easy, you can bring it down relatively easy. So I wouldn't worry about counting as much as I would feeling the weight.
Ulrich Danziv, Dave, how many days did you train in the off season when you were competing?
I originally started out with a 5-day split, 2 days off every week from weight training. Toward the end of my career, where I was trying to really prioritize my arms, I would do an 8-day split, believe it or not. So in 8 days, I would train 6 times and have 2 days off. But what I would do is 2 of those days, one day I would train biceps and forearms alone, and another day was just triceps and calves. So those were short days. So they might have only been like 40 minutes in the gym and actually training. Whereas, so the back days and leg days, those were longer days. So it worked for me. That 8-day rotation was perfect. It gave me more time to recover than just the 7-day split that most people do, the 7-day rotation. And I prioritized my arms by giving them their own day. And so it worked for me. If guys have good arms, they might not need to do that. But for me, it seemed to work really well.
Qasim Al-Sentry, Dave, what's the minimum dosage and frequency of shots for HGH for fat loss? Also, is that level of conditioning achievable with hardcore diet and cardio plus good gear? Well, let's go to the first one first and make that the majority of the answer. Frequency, minimum dosage, and frequency of shots for HGH for fat loss.
I always found that, anywhere from 2 to 4 IUs was ideal for fat loss. You didn't get excessively bloated on it. It burned fat optimally. I found it didn't make you too insulin resistant. I would usually do all the shots in the morning, like the 4 IUs or the 2 IUs in the morning. If you really want to be neurotic, you can do 2 IUs in the morning and maybe another 2 IUs 5 to 6 hours later. But you could take it all in the morning, and that seemed to work really well for me. When I would take, I really very rarely went over 4 or 5 IUs a day. But when I did, I got a hell of a lot of fluid. I noticed from that, and I didn't really find that it burned fat more. Matter of fact, because it made me insulin resistant, I found that my body didn't look as good. So sometimes less is better. And I have always said this, with regard to growth hormone, lower dosages over a longer period of time are way more effective than doing high dosages over a shorter period of time.
One tall man, Dave, I know when it comes to showing abs, you have to get rid of the fat. But to build ab muscles, what is the optimal amount of exercises to do and how many days per week?
This is what I used to do. I did less ab work, but I did it more frequently. So I would do 2 sets of crunches, maybe 50 to 70 reps per crunch, per set. I would do 2 sets of leg lifts, maybe 6 inches off the ground for 50 to 70 reps. And then I would do maybe 1 set of twist, a little bit of a twist. So it would be a crunch with a little twist just to hit the obliques for maybe 50, 30, or maybe 25 reps with each side. Now, it doesn't seem like a lot. It probably would take me 15 minutes to do this, and I would do it at the end of my workouts. But I would do it 4 to 5 times a week. So if I was training 5 days a week, I would train abs at the end of every workout. For leg days, a lot of times I would train abs first because it seemed to loosen up my lower back a little bit. But you can do that, and it's a real quick hit. You're not overtraining your abs, but you're stimulating them. And I found that I built thick abs that responded well, on stage. I had good abdominal control from that. I think sometimes that's better than doing a 30-minute ab workout twice a week. But everyone's different. Experiment. I never used weight on my abs. I never used I never did crunches with the rope, where I was pulling a weight stack down. I never did side bends or anything like that because I didn't want to thicken my waist. I had a lot of muscle there already. I didn't want to make it any thicker. So I think if you use body weight movements like I suggested, you can get away with doing them more frequently.
Takar81, Dave, when they say protein per pound of body weight, should you use lean body mass or overall body weight?
If you're a 400-pound obese guy, I wouldn't use 400 pounds as my measurement. But, if you're a 280-pound bodybuilder and maybe you're holding 30 pounds of extra weight, water and fat, I might go with the 280-pound mark. Once again, you're better off starting off with too much protein. You can always cut it back if you're not losing weight.
Let's go to MVJ10121. Is feeling anxious in the gym after lifting weights normal? Maybe too much caffeine prior. I get that feeling of lightheadedness as soon as I start training. I'm only taking 250 mg of caffeine.
Caffeine will certainly do it because it makes you, it traumatizes your nervous system. But I got news for you. Try doing a heavy squat workout in the gym and with no stimulants. You will leave there with a traumatized nervous system. I remember I used to be shaking when I would leave the gym, and I didn't do any caffeine because heavy, intense weight training is very traumatizing to the nervous system. I used to have trouble, I used to go home and take a nap like after the heavy workouts, and I would sometimes have trouble falling asleep because I was literally like this, like shell shocked, like I had just gotten out of a war zone. And that's what, think about it. Put 600 pounds on your back and walk around with it. It's a lot of weight, and it is traumatizing. You stack caffeine on top of that, and it's going to feel even worse. It's going to feel like you have battle fatigue. Okay, so don't go crazy with the stimulants in the gym. That's my best suggestion. And if you're doing heavy workouts, don't train for 2.5, 3 hours. That's way too much.
Big Pete Bodybuilding, how to build up your sex drive after a long cycle. Is Cabergoline going to help with small doses of test, 250 mg a week, and Proviron?
Well, assuming you're coming off a cycle, I don't think you should be on 250 milligrams of testosterone a week. If you're on 250 milligrams of testosterone a week, you shouldn't have any sex drive issues. Okay, it's the guys that come off completely, they do their HCG, they're Coleman, and then they're off for 6 weeks on nothing. Sometimes your testosterone gets low because it hasn't come back fully yet, and your sex drive is low. Taking cabergoline is not going to do anything if you don't have high prolactin levels. Likewise, if you're taking an aromatase inhibitor and you really have super low estrogen levels, that can make your sex drive even worse. So my suggestion is accept the fact that you're going to be a little low. If you have a girlfriend and you're having trouble having sex, take a little Cialis or Viagra. I mean, if you really need it. But the bottom line is that you're going to have to just suck it up through those 4 to 6 weeks. You're completely clean. And then when you go back on, you won't have a problem. Now, if you're coming off permanently, different story. Then we could talk about maybe doing extended HCG and Coleman cycles to get yourself naturally turned back on. But if you're going to go back to a hormone replacement dose, once again, you don't have to worry about sex drive. It shouldn't go that low. Okay, on 250 milligrams a week, you should feel really good.
Pre-Harubi, Dave, what blood work can one check to ensure optimal fat-burning pathways before starting a pre-contest diet, such as thyroid, liver, kidneys, cortisol, and adrenal glands?
There's really nothing you can check aside from your thyroid status to see if you're in ideal prime fat-burning mode. If you're T4, which is inactive thyroid, T3, active thyroid hormone, and TSH, which is your thyroid stimulating hormone that your pituitary produces to actually stimulate the thyroid. If those 3 values are normal, then you're good. Okay? If they're low, especially T3, you got a problem. That's probably the easiest way I can make it. There's really, you don't need 6,000 different tests to tell you if your metabolism is working properly. It's one simple thyroid function test.
Let's go to Mark Eves or Aves 513. Dave, if you need healthy fats in your diet, why wouldn't a tablespoon or 2 of natural peanut butter be beneficial after a workout, as fats slow down the digestion but not the protein absorption even during prep?
Well, during prep, when when it doesn't matter, I always explain this to people. During prep, okay, the post-workout meal / shake is kind of irrelevant. Okay. If you're one of these guys that has a fast metabolism and you can do a post-workout shake with carbs and protein, that's fine. But if you're on a restricted calorie diet and you're a tough loser, in other words, you lose fat very slowly, don't worry. You can have your protein and fat right after you train. That doesn't matter. It's not the food's going to get in there eventually. Off season, when we're trying to maximize your body's ability to recover from workouts, and we want to infuse nutrients into the body as quickly as possible, taking in fats with the post-workout shake will slow things down. So a lot of times what I tell people to do is do like an isolyzed and carbolyzed shake post-workout, then an hour and a half later you could have a meal. That's just when we're in maximum muscle mass building mode. In pre-contest, you have a limited amount of nutrients divided over probably 5 or 6 meals a day. It doesn't matter what you eat after the gym. Eventually that food's going to get digested and assimilated, and you will still repair muscle at optimal rates.
Not sure if we asked this question last week. If I did, we'll just tell this user to refer back to last week's episode. Jomi_Ake I was wondering your opinion on vaccines for a newborn baby. I'm going to have my first child in January. What did you do? Any advice?
Yeah, I'll tell you what I did. I'm kind of a little pissed off about the whole thing, actually, to begin with. But I had my son, I decided not to vaccinate him because I've read a lot of bad stuff and I've talked to a lot of, I'm not going to name these doctors I talked to, people in our industry too. And no one was really giving me good feedback on doing vaccines. So I said, you know what? My son's got an undeveloped brain. He's not being exposed to anyone. I don't need to vaccinate him. So it's been 19 months. He's gotten no vaccinations. Now, I moved down to Florida. No doctor in Cape Coral will take a child who's not vaccinated. It's the most ridiculous policy of all time, okay? And I've argued with the doctors to the point where my wife Amanda was mortified because, you know, I know what I'm talking about. And these guys are giving me ridiculous, non-logical arguments, you know, as to why, you know, why every patient of theirs needs to be vaccinated. So because of that, and because of the fact that my newborn that's going to be born in December will not have the ability to go to a pediatrician if I don't vaccinate, I will start vaccinating probably come December time when the newborn is born. And I will have to start, you know, having my son vaccinated so that he can be. And I was going to start his vaccinations at 2 years old anyway because I want him to be able to go to school, you know, at 4. Having said that, I'm kind of upset that I have to start vaccinating my daughter, you know, when she's born rather than waiting the 2 years I did with my son. It's horrendous that, you know, we are in a medical system where they force you to do things that you really don't want. Obviously, I want my kids to be able to go to school. I'm not homeschooling them, so you know, I have to vaccinate, but I'm not a big fan of it, to be honest with you, because I think that there's too many people that I know personally that have autistic kids that swear to me that it happened after, you know, the MMR shot or after this vaccination. So it is troubling to me. If you live in an area where maybe they let you not vaccinate, and like New York was great with that. I had a doctor that didn't care. I would wait 2 years, to be honest with you. I think it's good to vaccinate, but I think after 2 years, the child's brain has developed enough that it could probably handle it, and you're not going to wind up getting some kind of an autistic response, you know. And look, not all kids, most kids are vaccinated, and the majority of kids don't have autism. So there's no cause and effect, but I think that if you're genetically maybe predisposed to it, that these vaccines might do something. But I don't know. So it's all hearsay. That's just how I did it.
Tobias Physique, Dave, your thoughts on probiotic and digestive enzymes when bulking. Should you use them to help your digestion when you're eating a ton of food every day?
You know, I personally have never had any benefits from taking digestive enzymes. I don't think most of us have deficiencies in digestive enzymes. However, I do think that probiotics are good for digestion and for helping the digestive tract. I also think that, and I've talked about this multiple times, a fiber supplement is very important when you're eating 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 times a day. You want to move waste through your intestinal tract at optimal rates, because if it sits there and festers, you're going to reabsorb, okay, the toxins, okay? You're not going to efficiently, look, if you have a huge amount of waste sitting in your colon, there's no way your body is going to worry about building and synthesizing new muscle tissue. It's worried about getting rid of the crap, no pun intended, that's sitting in your intestinal tract. So fiber pushes waste through your body at optimal rates, enabling your body to process and deal with the new food that you're consuming. So taking a supplement like my FiberLife supplement, which right now is is my #1 selling product, by the way, thanks to all you guys out there who've used it and who understand how important it is. Taking a fiber supplement like that twice a day that has both soluble and insoluble fiber in there is probably one of the most important things that a person who trains and eats a lot can do for their bodies. And I've said this before where people have asked me what the most important supplements are. It's definitely in my top 4.
Kyle.lives, Dave, do you think, interesting one here, we talked about blood work earlier, do you think it's necessary for a healthy individual to get blood work done if they're natural?
I think everyone should get blood work because no one knows what's going on. If you're natural, let's say if your testosterone levels are low, you better find out about it because you're not taking anything that's going to help you for that. So let's say you go to the doctor, you're a natural bodybuilder, and you find out your testosterone is like 150. You go back a month later and it's still 150. Guess what? You're trying to be a natural bodybuilder and you don't even have a normal testosterone level. Okay, you probably might need hormone replacement. Maybe you've been hypogonadal your whole life, you didn't even know it. So yeah, I mean, it's very important for everyone to get blood work, and not even people who don't even work out should be getting blood work on a regular basis, because you never know when you're going to have a kidney or a liver problem, or your thyroid gland is going to decide to just stop working, or you're vitamin D deficient or vitamin B12 deficient. You got to check these things out. I said this before. I have a list of blood work that I think everyone should get done on a routine basis when they go to the doctor. If anyone wants it, you can email me at huge285@AOL.com. I'll send it out to you. I'll also send my detox out for you if you want that as well. You can request that. I have no problem doing that for free. I want everyone to be healthy, and that's important. Getting your blood work checked and doing your detox at least once a year. I created a 3-week detoxification program. Is super important to health. And let's face it, we all love bodybuilding. We all want to be big, freaky, and hard. But let's face it, you got to get rid of the waste that's in your body. You got to be able to detoxify your body so that it stays healthy. Because this is a lifestyle. It's something we're going to do for many, 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 many years. It's not a 1-year type of thing. It's not going to happen for 6 months. This is going on. Bodybuilding is a lifestyle. So you got to be able to manage your lifestyle in a healthy way.
Kirill WBK, Dave, what do you think of reduced sodium salt? Is it better, or should I salt my food with regular salt?
Regular salt, man, all the way. Look, our bodies, we sweat all the time, especially in the summer. You lose a tremendous amount of sodium. You need to put salt into your body, okay? It's the most prevalent electrolyte in the body. And most people, I say 99% of the people who call me up or email me or text me about the fact that they're cramping, it's due to sodium deficiency. Every single time. Very rarely is it something else, another weird syndrome or something like that. It's almost always sodium deficiency. I guess the biggest mistake people make, they go on a diet, they cut all their sodium out. I don't know why they do that. Sodium doesn't help you burn fat, restricting it. Don't restrict sodium.
Let's go to Maksud Mozgar. Dave, after a competition, how many days would you take off training altogether? Well, you guys want to know specifically weight training after you've competed at a show.
Mm-hmm. While I was competing, if you asked me this question, I would say like a day or two. You know, if I would compete on a Saturday, and I wouldn't train Thursday, Friday. Obviously, I wouldn't train the day of the show Saturday. I might take Sunday off. By Monday, I was back in the gym. Every single show was like that, you know. And sometimes I would be back in the gym on Sunday. Usually not, because I would do a photo shoot or something like that. But usually by Monday, I was back in the gym. And that's just me. I like to train, you know. And I wouldn't go crazy. Obviously, it was a very light workout. But I feel good when I go to the gym. Looking at it from a mechanistic, scientific, you know, standpoint, I'd probably say 2 weeks off from the gym is probably nice to give your body a little recovery. The problem is when you come off a show, you're rebounding off water, okay? You feel like crap because you're not eating good food. It's like you want to go back to the gym to kind of feel regular. And a lot of people, look, working out for a lot of people is like a fix. It's almost like you're getting your drug fix. You know, you go there, you get your endorphin release, you feel good, you sweat a little bit. So I don't think there's anything wrong with going back to the gym, but maybe just go back and do like a light workout, you know, train one body part. Just kind of go back to just feel the muscles working. Don't go back to set any records.
Matt King, 41 years old, male, 170 pounds, trying to get last bit of fat off. Can you offer a good quote-unquote starter cleanse protocol?
I always start guys off on 20 micrograms twice a day on clenbuterol, and I increase that by about 20 micrograms every 2 to 3 weeks if necessary, okay, or as necessary. I never go more than 120 micrograms per day, and I always divide it in dosages of 20 micrograms per dose. So that's pretty much the protocol. I do it every day of the week. I don't do any ketotifen or any kind of other antihistamines to help make it, quote, work better, because I don't think they do anything except make you tired. And that's how I use Clen. It's pretty simple, you know. Just stay on it and constantly, gradually pyramid the dose up.
Goldbeck 01, is it possible to diet all the way to a contest without any cardio?
It's been done. I've done it before. I find that I look better on a little bit of cardio. I would do 20 minutes, maybe 5 or 6 days a week, you know, maybe the last 4 weeks before a show, toward the end of my career. But that was a lot for me because I was so lean already. Can you get away with doing none? I know guys that probably can get away with doing none. sometimes it feels good to do a little cardio. There's for cardiovascular conditioning, because remember, you're going to be up on stage posing. But I tell a lot of people, if you don't need to do cardio and you can get in shape, spend that time you would be doing cardio practicing your posing. That's a great way to do cardio.
Diane Iliev Doctoral, why does frequent usage of peptides get my IGF levels at record low levels? Is it from overstimulating the pituitary?
Well, the pituitary really has very little to do. Well, I shouldn't say that. You know, stimulating the pituitary to release GH, which then in turn, you know, causes IGF-1 release. You theoretically would think that if you're taking a lot of peptides, you'd have high IGF-1 levels in the body. However, IGF-1, when it's released from the liver, doesn't stay elevated as long as you think. It's a very short window. So the problem is that, you know, it depends on when you go take this blood test. If you go take a shot of, you know, GHRP6 and, you know, 3 hours later you go get your blood work done, you might see high IGF-1 levels. But if you do it maybe after an hour or you wait 5 hours, you might see low IGF levels. So because IGF doesn't stay elevated very high, it's impossible to know exactly when to go take blood to test if the stuff is actually raising your IGF-1 or not.
Take a couple of quick ones here. Yabenzov 79. Dave, can you explain the Ronnie Coleman method of training with a lot of, I guess, quote unquote, cheating? How efficient is that versus good, slow, controlled weight reps?
It's very efficient at injuring yourself. If you're looking to injure yourself, follow exactly what Ronnie does. Remember, Ronnie Coleman is a genetic freak. He feels training differently than you and I do, okay? He also now has a lot of injuries. So maybe his very loose form of training might have built muscle back in the day because he was so strong, but it also might have caused some of his instability in his back and some of his injuries he's got along the way. So we don't know for sure if that's the case. I was always a very controlled trainer. You know, I lifted a lot of weight, but I controlled the weight like excessively. I have no muscle injuries, but I do have bad shoulders. So, you know, I had to have a shoulder replacement. I need another one. So I don't know, you know, if it was just a heavy weight. I certainly wasn't my form because my form was impeccable. So it just could have been the fact that I have very loose joints. So we don't know, you know, what works for anyone. All I know is that good form, full range of motion is always superior to sloppy form.
We'll take one more. It's an interesting philosophical question really pointed at you and I guess post-career. So when I say the word ego, we obviously use it lightly in terms of, you know, your mindset as a bodybuilder during your career and afterwards. Mango Apple Orange wants to know, Dave, did it hurt your ego when you lost all that size? And I guess inferring that he means post-career. I know it's the right thing to do, but how hard was it mentally?
It didn't hurt my ego because I did it voluntarily. That's an important point. I know guys who have gotten their careers cut short for kidney problems, bowel problems. Look at Mike Francois, you know, he lost his large intestine. I could see people's egos being, you know, damaged in a certain way or you know, hurt in a sense because they didn't have the decision making when it came to losing the size. At some point when I retired, I said, okay, I'm going to take it down this much muscle. I don't need to weigh this much. And then at another point, you know, a couple years after that, I said, I'm going to take it down this much because I don't want to. So I dictated how I looked. Okay. Now, granted, it's been 6 weeks I haven't trained because I had a shoulder replacement. I'm not happy about that. I lost some size. I know it's going to come back, so I'm okay with that. But I know where I want to be muscle size-wise. You know, for me, at 200 pounds, I'm happy. This is where I want to be. So my ego is not hurt because I've controlled how I want to look. And I think that's an important point to make. Some people, however, are so insecure with themselves that they wouldn't be able to do what I did, in which case they may damage their health because of the fact that they mentally can't weigh under 250 pounds. I looked at it from this perspective. I have a lot of interests. I want to be around a long time. I have a new family. I don't want to die, or I don't want to live a long time and be sick, a sickly guy who you know. So I decided that I was going to lower my weight, stay lean, you know, lower my body weight down to a certain point and have a certain look, and I wasn't going to worry about what anyone thought because I've already proved that I could be the biggest guy. and the leanest guy, I got nothing left to prove anymore, you know? So I did what I had to do, and now I'm doing something else, and I'm hopefully giving pleasure to other people by providing information, for being an analyst in the bodybuilding world, and giving my opinion. So I can't give my opinion and be around a long time and do that if I'm dead, okay, of a heart attack, because I was worried about being 250 pounds on stage. So I think that you have to evaluate your life and set new goals for yourself and adhere to those goals and not worry about anyone saying, oh, he's skinny, or oh, he looks like death, or what. People are always going to say that. But I'm still alive and I'm healthy and I feel good. So I worry about how I feel and how I look inside, and I don't worry about what other people think about me. And I think that's the problem. Too many people are worried about or we call, as Dwayne Dyer would say, the good opinion of others. Because the good opinion of others means nothing to you. It's only how you react to it. So once again, because I dictated how I wanted to look, I'm fine with how I look.
That's going to do it for this episode of Ask Dave, brought to you by Species Nutrition. Again, visit speciesnutrition.com. Right now, we are in the midst of the Iron Road to the Olympia, which is brought to you by Yamamoto Nutrition and Pro10 USA. Right now on RxMuscle.com and the YouTube channel, we have interviews with Bader Budai, with Logan Franklin. And tomorrow, we're going to have our interview going up with Nathan Yasha, Arasha Bar, classic physique, in many people's opinion, the prohibitive favorite in the classic physique division, also on RxMuscle.com and the RxMuscle YouTube channel. For Dave Palumbo and Johnny Styles, I'm Sadiq Faruqi. We'll see you next week.